Be quiet. So Urmi Chanda is a Mumbai-based peacebuilder and interfaith research scholar who wishes to share her learnings from her coursework at the Institute of Peace and Economics and Peace with her fellow peace builders and change makers. Your takeaways from this 1 hour session will be key findings from the three IEP reports, which come out annually actually: the Global Peace Index, the Global Terrorism Index, and the Ecological Threat Report. Empirical data from these reports can help strengthen your peace building practice or give you insights for new peace solutions. Um, and this is all the bio she sent me. So, since she won't want me to make up fiction, which I sometimes tend to do, I will hand this over to her. Thank you, Urmi, for offering to share all of this with us. And I look forward to listening to you.
Thank you, Swarna. And thank you, everyone who's made the time today to come and listen in. I see some friends here, Shivani, Stanley, Sagar, Anarjot. Thank you for being here. And everyone else who I hope to get to know eventually. Um, so this presentation, as Swarna mentioned, is part of the coursework I took on from IEP, which is the Institute of Economics and Peace. And as part of the coursework, I was needed to sort of make a presentation of my learnings. Now, these learnings are pretty extensive. The IEP reports are quite massive, and I will share a disclaimer right now that I haven't mastered them cover to cover. So I may or may not be able to answer some very intricate questions about methodology. But the purpose of today's presentation is to share some key learnings, key findings from these reports as a starting point to those who may find it useful in their work. Now, as a researcher, when I first started going through this, started learning this, I found them very useful because a lot of people like us from the humanities background are often left wanting in terms of not much empirical data. We tend to talk in abstract, especially piecework. That's something I do also. So it helps to strengthen, when we are stepping out into the world, to make our cause stronger, that much more credible. So when I came across these findings, I felt the need to also share some of it, some of what I have learned with people who work in this field. So that is the purpose of today's presentation. I hope you have at least some important things that you will discover, some insights that you might take away from this. So thank you, and I will start sharing my screen now. Is everyone able to see this?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So, like I said, I call this "Where do I start?" Because that's a dilemma I have found myself facing. I am a peace builder, I'm a peace educator, but very often in today's world, because the quantum of conflict, the quantum of uh, pain and suffering we see around us is so immense that it sometimes feels like a drop in the ocean. You don't know, how much is will anything ever be enough? So I and this is especially true in the current context of Palestine. This image that I've picked to present the topic is one from Palestine. So you see rubble there, and you see a man who has saved a kitten, and this presentation is like saving that little uh, bit of life so that we can infuse hope into this world. Moving on. Yes. Before we start, there's a small request to all of our participants. If you could type one word in the chat box, that comes closest to your understanding of what peace is. Like I said, peace is a fairly abstract concept. So if we could start out with this one word, anything that comes to your mind that is relevant today. What is peace to you? One word, one phrase. If we could maybe share, it would be nice. I would like some responses. Would be nice. Shivani says empathy.
I have to type it here on the chat.
In the chat box, yes, so that we can all read each other's responses also. So there's justice, there's absence of direct violence, presence of justice, mutual understanding. We have fearlessness also, freedom, Gandhi and Bacha Khan. Okay. So we are a few people in this group, but even so, we have happiness. We see the diversity of responses that have come, which is just an indicator of how varied it can be as a topic. So when you say you want to start building peace in this world, what is a good starting point? Do you start working towards happiness? Do you start working towards freedom or justice? Or you address direct violence, or you work towards mutual understanding? So it can be a lot of things, and it can be confusing, especially to people in civil society who want to contribute, who are well-meaning citizens but don't necessarily know where to start. Also true of professionals sometimes. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and can move on. So which is where these reports come in handy in giving us that starting point. So today I'm going to speak about these three reports. Now the Institute of Economics and Peace brings out many reports like this annually, but we are headlining these three today. The first being the Global Peace Index, the second being the Global Terrorism Index, and the third being the Ecological Threat Report. Now all of these are in the public domain. All of them are available to download free of cost from their website. The website is called visionofhumanity.org. If someone wants to take this down, easy to find. Just type Global Peace Index report and it'll lead you to the website. And yes, it has lots of useful information. We will only scratch the surface today. And this is what I'm doing is part of the ambassador program, the IEP ambassador program. Now, why is this important? Why is looking at these IEP reports important? Is because IEP is a credible international organization. They are known for their consistent contributions to the positive peace frameworks. And what that is, I will come to in a moment. They are free, very credible resources and free. Usually, the trouble with academic research very often is that, they are behind paywalls, very difficult to access, or very, very expensive. So the fact that these are free and available for everyone to use makes it that much better. And these can be used to learn for yourself, to teach if you're a peace builder. These can be used to strengthen policy related work. You can incorporate these into your project design. Why? Because they are all tangible and measurable things. Now, coming to what positive. Yeah. So, to move this bar on my screen so I can see my. Yes, thank you. Okay. So, coming to what negative versus positive peace is, like I mentioned a moment ago, that IEP is notable as an organization because they have contributed significantly to the positive peace framework. And how is it different from peace in general? Peace is usually understood by a lot of people, like Sagar mentioned in the chat, as absence of direct violence. So negative peace, and these are concepts that were given by a famous Norwegian social scientist whose name will come to me. Yes, Galtung. Thank you, Sagar. These were given by him, where he described negative peace as the absence of violence or fear of violence, and positive peace as attitudes, institutions, and solutions that create and sustain peaceful societies. So there's a very good parallel for this, where how the study of pathology in the field of modern medicine was instrumental in understanding what causes diseases. Similarly, when we look at conflict, when we study conflict, it tells us, what is wrong, how many deaths were caused, so on and so forth. But the study of what works for the body, for example, nutrition, for example, exercise, for example, great mental health, these are the things that contribute to good health. So studying positive pieces like that, what creates conditions that are, that can create a positive or a peaceful society. That is how the study of conflict is different from the study of positive peace. So that's what these reports, this organization tries to do. And we will move on that note. And these are the 8 pillars of positive peace. These have been listed as well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources, the free flow of information, good relations with neighbors, high levels of human capital, acceptance of the rights of others, low levels of corruption, and sound business environment. Now, I've placed this alongside the SGDs because I find a lot of overlaps here. For example, no poverty can be equated with high levels of human capital. So for people who work, whose work involves SGDs, can also draw inspiration from the positive peace framework. And so basically working towards any of these goals is basically working towards positive peace also. So it helps strengthen our proposals for peace workers specifically. So if you work in peace and you want to strengthen your proposals, you can equate it very well with the sustainable development goals. So yeah. Then we go on next. Now we start with the first report, the Global Peace Index. This is the index for 2023. But this released a couple of months ago, and it does not take into account the current conflict between Israel and Palestine. But some bits of the Russia-Ukraine conflict have been accounted for. So the global, as you can see, these are some of the highlights of the report. This is the 17th edition. They've been doing this for 17 years. It covers 163 countries. So it's a pretty comprehensive report because 163 countries means it covers about 99.7% of the population. So it's as comprehensive as it can get. They measure 23, they have 23 indicators across 3 domains, using which they measure peace in these all of these countries, which the 3 main domains being the ongoing domestic and international conflict, societal safety and security, and measures of militarization. Some of the highlights from this report are that the global average of peacefulness has deteriorated by 0.42%. This was before Palestine, as I mentioned. And although 84 countries have become more peaceful, 79 countries have seen a decrease in levels of peace. Stanley, about India, I have a focus on South Asia. I will come to that in a moment. Thank you for asking that question. The next is, this is a map, the Global Peace Index map, where we can see green is high levels of peace, red is very low levels of peace, white is areas that have not been studied, but you can see it pretty much covers the whole globe. And India, Stanley, answering your question, stands somewhere in between. We are at medium levels. Our neighbors are not, some of our neighbors are not faring very well. They have low levels of peace. And Afghanistan, of course, falls in very low. Yeah, so this is where it is. Australia is peaceful. These are some of the peaceful nations. This is the chart that we can see. I will come to the point of, you can see a phrase on top of this chart says the stickiness of peacefulness. It's a very useful phrase, I think, but I will explain what the context is. These are some of the most peaceful countries, going to the least peaceful ones. India should be somewhere in these because we marked yellow. Yes, we are at 126, and the lowest in the world is Afghanistan at the moment. So some of the metrics that are used for this, to measure this, include terrorism impact, how they measure improvements. Like I said, some of the countries have improved in peacefulness, so they measure that using the terrorism impact scale, the political terror scale, and the military expenditure, to measure what percentage of GDP it is. And they measure deteriorations using factors like external conflict, political instability, and deaths from inter. So these are pretty self-explanatory, but like I said, they have a 26-point scale, but these are just some of the metrics that I thought I'd share with you. Regionally speaking, this is where South Asia stands. As you can see, we've decreased in peacefulness as compared to Asia Pacific or North America. Decrease is not that drastic, but there is. Russia and Eurasia, as you can see, because of the Russia-Ukraine war, has significantly decreased in peacefulness. Middle East and North Africa, there has been improvements. It's, lots of conflict going on for many, many years. So this is hopeful. And these are, I'm spotlighting South Asia here because most of us are here. Most of our work is here. So Stanley again. India, like I said, ranks 126, which is not great, but we've gotten better from last year for sure. And we've gotten up by improved by 9 points, 9 ranks, which is great. Pakistan has improved, Bangladesh has improved, Sri Lanka hasn't. And why have we improved? It's because there are improvements in terms of relationships with our neighbors. Political instability has decreased. Violent crime has decreased. And but Nepal, Sri Lanka, our neighbors are not doing very well. Bhutan, there has been an overall deterioration, but it's still one of the most peaceful nations, not just in South Asia, but the whole world. Afghanistan, there has been an overall improvement in the peace score, but it's still the lowest ranking in the world. And why there is an improvement in peace score is because after the Taliban took over, terrorism-related deaths have gone down because it's now their government. They don't need to kill as often. So that is why there has been a general improvement in their scores. This is one highlight from the report. I will quickly read it out. South Asia recorded a slight deterioration compared to last year's total regional score in peacefulness over the past year and remains the second least peaceful region overall. So globally speaking, we are not doing very well. We definitely need to work on peace solutions in the subcontinent. Average level of peacefulness is increased by 0.13% owing to deteriorations in militarization and safety and security domains. There are fewer cross-border conflicts and improved relations with China. I know, there has been tension, but there is no outright violence. So between last year and now, which is why that's what the report says. And 4 regions have gotten better and 3 have deteriorated. This is a chart on the economic impact of violence, very important again for people who advocate for peace, because there's a direct correlation of how we will fare as a country economically if we continue down the path of violence. So it's a very straightforward account of why the impact of military expenditure is 43%, internal security is 29%, and these are huge. So how much a country invests and how much we as citizens should or should not support is plain to see, because it's literally affecting our lives. economically. The next report we're going to look at is the Global Terrorism Index. And before I go in, I'm just going to expand my window and see if there are any. Okay, cool. So, yes. The Global Terrorism Index, the key findings, three key findings here. The Sahel region, Sahel being Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Gambia, the Northern Africa area. Afghanistan is impacted the most, although, like I said, interestingly, Taliban is not classified as a terrorist group anymore. And terror attacks the world over, they have decreased in number, but increased in intensity. So these are some of the highlights from the report. This report started a little later than the Global Peace Index. That was 17th edition. This is the 10th edition. Also covers 163 countries. It considers not only deaths, but also incidents, hostages, and injuries from terrorism, and they're weighted over a 5-year period. And according to this report, the three major clusters of motivation as to what inspires or what drives terrorism, the three big reasons are religious, ideological, and nationalist or separatist. This is a map of terrorism, and again, India and also the neighboring countries fare between high and very high, which is very grim news for us. And also underlines again, why these numbers and why these facts and figures and statistics are important. Because it makes our case stronger as peace workers, as change makers. So it's right there for anyone to see why this work is important. This map is all they need to see. India scores high on impact of terrorism. So yes. This is again the global chart. Afghanistan, like we said, lowest in global peace index, and therefore consequently highest in the global terrorism index, ranks at number 1. And India is at number 13. We are really not far behind. So there is a lot to chew on. And this is, like I said, the chart is flipped over. These are the countries that are impacted least by terrorism. Why is it high, Stanley? I will come to it. These are scores again between 2012 and 2022, average at the average rank. And there's some change that has happened in the past year, that before the 2023 report came up between 21 and 22. These are some numbers that we can examine and look at. Again, an important highlight from the report, it remains, we have the worst average because in South Asia, because of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and because these two among the South Asian cluster are rank among the top 10 countries affected by terrorism. Pakistan has in the recent years seen a significant rise of deaths due to terror attacks. And on an average, for 12% of South Asians, war and terrorism are top concerns. So these are focus areas in South Asia. India, sadly, I need to come back to you on that, on why why we are where we are. This is the third report that we're going to look at, the Ecological Threat Report. This is a more recent edition, and as the intersectionality between peace work and climate work is something that we realize more and more, because the two are inherently connected. And we'll explore the connections in the next few slides. But like I said, recent edition, this is only the 4th edition of this report, covers about 99.99% of the world's population. This, instead of looking at countries, it looks at states and territories, and focuses on geographies. And it looks at four major aspects. What are the threats? The four major categories of threats are food insecurity, water risk, natural disasters, and demographic pressure. And the one key finding that I wanted to highlight is that, and which we all know, but let's spell it out for ourselves, is that without concerted international action, current levels of ecological degradation will substantially worsen and intensify social issues such as malnutrition post-migration. So that is the key takeaway. Again, South Asia is in the red-orange category. Africa is faring really badly. The global north, as we know, is not yet affected the way we are. We are seeing increased temperatures, rainfall. It was the end of November. There's no winter yet in Mumbai. So yeah, I guess that's why we are orange. And here are some numbers to look at. 66 is the number of countries out of 221 that are facing at least one severe ecological threat. 45% countries are facing severe food crisis. 77 countries have high or severe water risk. 1.8 billion people face severe risk from natural disasters and have low resilience. And 60% of the world's current megacities with a population of 268 million are in low or very low peace countries. So it doesn't help that, the countries, cities with the most populations are located in countries that already are low on peace. So here's exploring some of the connections between ecological threat and conflict, how these two things are interconnected. 4 questions answered. What is it? What is an ecological threat? It is they play this role in exacerbating armed conflict. Basically, we are fighting over resources, right? So if there's fewer resources, there will be people fighting over it. Where is it most likely to happen? In states with lower levels of peacefulness. So there are, in countries or regions where there's already a high level of tension, it's very easy to break into, for it to get complicated by ecological problems, such as, say, the Indus River conflict between, say, India and Pakistan. So already, we have a political situation going on, and then there's a ecological problem that's happening. And in areas with high climatic variability, when it so these problems tend to occur the most, conflicts related to climate in the aftermath of ecological shocks, after a earthquake, after a flood, so on and so forth, and during and after periods of food insecurity, and how because it increases food insecurity. Again, like I said, fight over resources. It intensifies regional resource competition. Here are some numbers that I thought might give us, demonstrate how the two are directly connected. So a rise in 25% of food insecurity increases the risk of conflict by 36%. So it's not an abstraction that we're talking about. There is a direct, very, very direct and visible correlation that numbers in this report proves. Similarly, with water, 25% increase in number of people without access to clean water means the chances of conflict increase by 18%. Again, these are some facts about South Asia as a region. As we saw in the first initial slides, we have the second highest ETR score. Bhutan being the only country that is rated on low in terms of natural disasters. This one, in the chat. What kind of conflict? Sunita wants to know. Sunita, political conflict that exists, regional conflict, all sorts of conflict, basically anything that increases competition between resources. that is likely to increase. Like the example I gave was the Indus waters. So, and see, even between states, within territories, if there is a political conflict between two states, for instance, the Kaveri water conflict is another example. The second thing about South Asia being that we have 9% in subnational areas and 175 million people that live in areas with extreme food insecurity. And the mega cities of Mumbai and Delhi, which have huge numbers of people, by 2050, we will have what? 42 and 36 million people in these cities, which will cause intense pressure on resources, causing migration and difficult, very difficult living situations. Shivani says it's chicken and egg situation. Yes, we'll come to the resiliency loop shortly. That will explain exactly how this goes round and round. A second. Yeah. The shocks and resilience, what you were just mentioning, Shivani, about the disaster loop. We'll come to resilience in a moment, but let's look at the right side, the country disaster loop, of how when an extreme climate event hits a low resilience country, India can be considered fairly low resilient, a country of low resilience at the moment, because we are always pressed for resources, too many people, too few things. So when a country like us or a region in our country is affected by a climate disaster, there is lack of social protection system. So we don't have much in terms of government support. And that causes extensive damage. So our ability to bounce back is very slow. Again, too many people, too few things, too few systems in place. Disaster management policy is not very great. We see this in Bombay, where I live. Constantly, year after year, flooding is a huge problem, but infrastructurally, there's nothing that changes. It just keeps getting worse every year. So we are not a very resilient city. We are just growing. We are just growing in terms of in the name of development. But are we also equally prepared to cope with disasters if it hits us? The answer is no. And so society can't repair, the third circle being society can't repair the damage fast enough, which means it is ill prepared for the next extreme hazard. So and it really never, it just goes from bad to worse in that sense. So how this works is typically an ecological threat. If it's a low intensity one, it limits direct impact because there's some coping capacity. There are some old internal structures. So the outcome, if we are a resilient region, resilient country, the outcome is that we are able to get back to the level of well-being that existed before the disaster. COVID could be one example, but that was catastrophic. That was not low intensity. But here there's a complete reconfiguration because now there is a new structure and a new norm. So this is how it generally works and looks, globally speaking, regionally speaking, nationally speaking. And with that, those are pretty much I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Pretty much the findings. And if we can, if there are any more questions, if there are any comments, thoughts on how we can use this information, and yeah, thoughts, comments. So Shivani is asking, would it be correct to say that the presence of positive peace prevents the need for negative peace? Definitely, because in a society that you're equipping on multiple levels for optimum human, peace, prosperity, there is reasons for conflict are reduced, and when there is no conflict, there is no need, to work towards negative peace?
Urmi Stanley.
Yeah, hi Sandy.
Surprisingly, I was just looking at it since I'm in the area of the interreligious dialogue. Religious discord, I mean, they didn't come up. I was just looking at the points you mentioned. Didn't come out glaringly.
So religion, like I said, in the global terrorism index, religion happens to be one of the 3 or 4 more major reasons that causes terrorism or conflict based on terrorism. Religious is one, ideological is one, and nationalist or separatist is one. So religion is definitely one of the major reasons, but we haven't gone into that extensively in these 3 reports.
One on the global peace index. I mean, I was just looking at the countries, the north, the extreme north and the extreme south.
Yeah.
Are the peaceful countries, but they are the ones who cause problems and conflicts around the world. If you really look at the entire world divided into the extreme north, the north, and the extreme south. So they are the ones who are involved in every conflict, but they are at peace.
Well, I mean, how the forces of capitalism work is a debate for another day. I completely hear you. But yeah, we are talking of direct results, with the visible results. We're not these reports don't take into account the insidious workings of the global north and global south politics. But yeah. Joycia says investment in SDGs instead of investing in military arms can increase peace. How are we negotiating with countries to reduce investment? Definitely. But how are we negotiating with countries? I don't know. Is anyone here who works directly in that realm? I'm only a peace educator, so I'm not entirely sure how it is that we negotiate with our nation, with our own nation for that matter, to not invest so much in arms or in even internal security budgets.
So I can come in for me and kind of answer that. I think it is really this is exactly how. Why is it that we don't, to use your words, negotiate with our governments? Partly because we're not sure what we know, what we don't know. We think that there's a realm of knowledge that is beyond our grasp. But I know, Joycia, you were at the Disarmament Toolkit earlier this year.
Yes.
But when you attend these talks and you read, you become more informed and you become more sure-footed in your argument, first of all, with government, with other citizens around you, and then with government. So I think that's exactly how. And I think, those of us who teach in schools and colleges have an excellent entry point, because we get to encourage people to frame the questions that then move the government to do what we want. That is, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
But, everything is based on optimism here.
Chorus, yes, thank you too for doing the work you do. My colleague here, Sagar, we just finished an interfaith program for children as well. And like Swarna just said, as educators, that's very often the first step in reducing these these narratives of hatred.
Can I say something?
Sure,
Hello.
Sagar.
Yeah, so I'm working with the schools and the learning centers with the medium of audiovisual medium. So basically, I go to the schools and do the presentation. I screen films about the peace, about the different themes, and talk to the students. And the conversation become a space where we discuss all these issues, especially like if we talk about in India, there are disturbed zone and conflict areas. So in these both region areas, like disturbed zones, you can say in the all the crime rates, everything in the cities like Delhi, Ghaziabad, or other cities. So there is a for the lower middle class people, it's really difficult to survive. And in that process, especially in schools, when you talk about the students, what is the meaning of peace for them? So they talk about love. So they, especially in terms of like love your neighbor, neighboring countries, you also mentioned that point. So it's something like conversation and discussion somehow made them to realize, and for us also to reflect on this point, to like conversation and medium like film screenings, discussion could be a possible area to resolve this issue, or you can say to like to talk about peace. So I'm more involved like mostly in the schools and the learning centers where we are doing regular film screenings. We are with students and teachers, and with students, with the adolescent kids, it's really easy to do a conversation. So this is something I'm really enjoying, and we are doing that. So with the INLEX fellowship, I'm awarded with the INLEX fellowship, where I'm developing a peace education module for schools and learning centers. So it is something giving me a way to talk about more. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure we'd love to know more. So if you have a link, maybe you can share it in the chat box where we can, maybe
Yeah,
people can
I'll do.
connect with you. We're all, gathered here with similar intentions, and it's always good to know of people who are doing work in similar domains. So, maybe which city you're in, what organization, if at all you're attached to, and anywhere we can learn more about your work and connect with you. Thank you, though.
Yeah, definitely I'll share the links. But right now I'm developing a module with this initiative called Cinema in School, where we are working in a Hindi belt in North India, Rajasthan, UP, Bihar,
Right.
and we are trying to get the schools on board, mostly underprivileged sections we are looking at, not the international schools, or you can say private schools. Yes, private schools, but mostly in 2 tier, 3 tier cities. So I will share the link over here in 1 minute. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
May I speak?
Yes, Amrita, please.
Yes, sorry, I'm not so good at texting, so I prefer speaking. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I have like 2 questions. One is, how is there any study which is being done connecting WPS index and ecology report like that? I'm new to the topic, so I don't know whether literature already exists. And second is, how about intra-regional within India? Is there any study or which could be conducted in terms of ecology and WPS or peace? If not gender related, the overall peace and ecology related. Is there any report, something which is quantifiable? Is there anything available?
WPS is not an area that I work in extensively, but Swarna does some work in the WPS area, I believe. Swarna, do you have anything for Amrita?
I can't think of any reports that connect WPS and ecological with economic data, but I think you could find, if you were to do a research program on this, you would find a lot of different counts that in fact make the connection through qualitative interviews and, ethnographic interviews and so on, but not what you are looking for, not something similar in format to the 3 reports that Urmi has just presented.
Also, for those who don't know this, I'm just sharing. The WPS means the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. Some of you might be new. I know we have a very young participant amongst us, so this is also for her benefit. So there are 2 agendas that are being looked at, 2 areas of work that are emerging. One is youth peace and security, one is women peace and security, which ties back to what Joycia also said, about the space women are getting in peace and negotiations. An important area because okay, as with any other field, while a lot of women, I know I work personally also with a lot of women peace builders, But at the level of policy, there aren't too many. So women definitely need more voice, both at the grassroots, both at the decision-making levels. And yeah, because I like to believe women are nurturers, and their perspectives, the feminist view of peace is instrumental to creating a better, more peaceful world. We have and thank you, Saurabh, for your post a comment there. There's lots of links for anyone who's interested in his work. You all can check it out. Looking at a couple of other comments. Joyce, yeah, about the presentation, yes, I can definitely share this. And if you came in late, I also want to remind everyone who came in late that these reports that I spoke of today, they're all available to download for free on their website. That's visionofhumanity.org. Sarita, thank you. And yeah, Meghna, you have a question?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah, so I was wondering something, but I didn't really have any answers on this. So I thought I'd just
Sure.
ask.
We're
So,
a group of change makers. Some answer will emerge.
yeah, so there was one point in the presentation where you'd shown the metrics on peace, and one of them said that the military expenditure is one aspect that looks into like improvement. And that got me wondering because when we look at like the gendered perspective of it, there's like a lot of discussion on how militarization, military expenditure, all of these come into play. So I just thought I'd ask you what your thoughts are on this and on a metrics like this being considered as an improvement in terms of the peace aspect. Yeah.
My personal opinion, see, I think it's pretty straightforward if you look at it. A lot of conflict comes from scarcity. Joblessness is what drives people towards restless, violent behavior. So economic welfare or economic security is one of the primary factors that ensures that a person's life is stable and peaceful. So if military expenditure of a nation is going to directly impact GDP, it's a reflection on all the quality of our lives, basically. So I think there's a very direct correlation between the two. And like Swarna said, and like we were discussing a little earlier, there definitely needs to be more, citizens need to ask their governments to be more accountable. They go on increasing budgets year after year, defense budgets, military budgets, all in the name of, the way Israel is doing right now, self-defense. And it goes unquestioned in the name of nationalism or whatever. So, but we as citizens, and we are paying, we're paying for tomatoes at ₹60 right now again. So it is a very different, so yes, housewife's piece is affected by prices going up and down like that. So I think the two, it may seem very distant, but it's really not. It is connected, and that's my opinion.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Saurabh. Adil says Pakistan ranks lowest on the Pillars of Peace framework, which was showing in the beginning. Yes, Adil, it does. It's one of the nations that has seen a lot of. Someone just mentioned intranational conflict. So Pakistan has seen a lot of conflict within its own borders and boundaries. A lot of terror attacks. Their economics is also a little, that's crumbling at the moment. So yes, that's also why Pakistan ranks low on the peace index. How to improve? Yeah, I guess it's not a simple answer. It will need years of undoing the damage that has been done in the name of whatever, and it'll take accountability on our parts as citizens. It'll need us to engage more with our governments, ask for better things from them. So yeah, how? Yeah, like I said, no
Maybe
simple. Yeah, yes. Sorry.
I can add a few words actually.
Please do.
I mean, coming from the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area, which was like part where the Bacha Khan movement, non-violence wars at the during pre-independence, right? So we know about that.
Yeah.
And I guess the whole world knows about it. But in India, Bacha Khan, Gandhi were very similar in their outlook. So it's a really, after that, it's retrogressive policies ever since. So we have lost hope now. Ever since we thought maybe there would be some improvement or we'll get better, but the autocratic governments over the years and the peacemakers here are totally disillusioned. I mean, we don't feel any hope or any vision or any light at the end of the tunnel. So for us, it's pretty depressing anyway. I'm happy to see what's going on in India, at least despite your limitations with the currently the governments that is going towards very measure
It is.
yeah, and that kind of outlook religious, but still your activism is still alive and your institutions are strong, what you showed. So institutions are the basic thing. Your institutions are very weak and obviously the policies are as bad. So this was just a learning experience for me and I'm glad I shared it. At least I could get from you, all of you, all your viewpoints. So that was my point. Insights into it is that I learned a lot from your presentation and everybody's views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adil, for sharing and from joining in from there. And honestly, I might say I may not entirely understand where you're coming from, but like you said, in India, we're not faring much better. But see, as change makers, hope is something we are obliged to hold on to. If we give in to despair, we will not be able to do this work. So yes, things look pretty grim sometimes. Things look but I don't think we have the luxury of giving in to despair at this moment, and you shouldn't either. We have to keep doing our bit. Shivani, thank you for sharing that website. So that's the resource that we can all turn to. Everything I have shared today is available to see, to download, reports to study at leisure, go deeper into maybe, nations that you might be interested in, data about certain nations, certain geographical areas. It's all there. Adil, yes, there is hope. There will always be hope. We have the last 5-6 minutes. If there are any concluding thoughts, remarks, it's been very, very nice to engage with you all. But any last comments?
Hi,
And then-
Urmi. It's Amrita again. I
Yes,
had
Amrita.
another question. I think it was kind of skipped. So is there any indices or something to study within India? Like there are many conflict inflicted places like within, so interregional within Indian country. Is there
The whole,
anything?
but the similar thing, right? The WPS and the ecological connection you're speaking about, right?
No, not WPS. Whatever you have shown in this, it's on a global scale, right?
Right.
General peace and its connection with ecology, sustainable development, something like that. Are there any reports which is available like within Indian context?
Not off the top of my head, Amrita. I'm sorry, I don't have anything on at hand right now. But if you're interested, I can maybe look it up. You can reach out and we can share learnings. I can't say at the moment. I don't think there is.
Thank you. Okay. So if I have to reach out to you, like, is there any Instagram ID or something like that?
Instagram ID, email ID, I will
Or
share my
email
email.
ID? Yes.
Yes, I'm going to share my email ID on chat right now. Anyone wants to, this is work that is relevant to all of us, important to all of us, and I'm happy to collaborate, share, and learn more. This is, we're all constantly learning. That's my email ID, Amrita. If I find anything, please drop me a hello, and I will be very happy to share it with you if I find something. Thank you, Sunita. Adil, are you saying something, or is your mic just on? Okay. Is there anything else? Any other thoughts, comments? Sunita, thank you. Again, thank you, Swarna. for letting me do this.
No, now it's my turn to come in and say thank you, Urmi, for reaching out and saying that, you wanted to do this and you'd like to do it with us, because it would, sometimes months go by and we're thinking about issues, we're thinking about the world around us, but it's great when somebody can actually bring together resources and say, well, look, this is where you can find more information. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to do this webinar with you. And I hope that people who are here today will come back to other things. Our Peace and Gender lecture series will happen again in February, and we have 5 days of lunchtime lectures by people. It focuses on women, peace, and security. And so this is something you can stay in touch and look forward to, maybe, and we can see you again. But in the meanwhile, thank you very much, Urmi. You know that we will be in touch. So everybody who came this evening, I'm sure you're ready to go home and eat dinner. So thank you again.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Urmi.
Thank you. It's okay, Adil, about your
Thank you.
mic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you,
Jasya.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Urmi.
Urmi.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.